fighter, Lord. We ask you, Lord, to protect him, protect his family, and all the freedom fighters in Dominica and here, Lord. Lord, we just want you to know that, Lord, with you at our side, now who can be against us? Because you are the protector. We give you the glory. We give you the honor. So, Lord, as we are about to have this meeting, we ask you, Lord, to be in our midst. Lord, if there is anything that's in there that's going to disturb it, Lord, we ask you, Lord, to remove it, Lord. We are coming here as brothers and sisters to discuss, Lord, the problems in our country, Lord. So, Lord, as we are here, Lord, and we get this opportunity, Lord Jesus, because we don't always get it. So, Lord, we ask, Lord, for each and every one here, Lord, to be attentive, Lord, and be respectful. Be respectful. So, Lord, we thank you. We praise you. We glorify you. We, in your mighty name, we say, Amen. 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 So sweet and fair, almost surely, gazing in wonder at thy bliss so rich and rare. Rivers, valleys, hills, and mountains, all is bliss sweetly to extol. Healthy land, so like all fountain, giving cheer that warms the soul. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to jump right in because we have a limited time this evening. And this evening, particularly, I would like to acknowledge former councilman and the king and his wife, who have made this possible. I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Thomson Fontaine, who's going to give us the opportunity to hear the plans that he has for our lovely country, Dominica. I'd also like to give special thanks to the organizers because this was a last minute. Crispin Gregoire and Zed Lloyd who really put this together at the last moment. Special mention to every single person who is in attendance here this evening. Those who will join us a little bit later. I just want to tell you thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. I know every single one of us, Dominica is in our hearts. We care very deeply for our country. We want to see Dominica move forward with all its potential. And this is what we are here tonight to hear, the plans that Dr. Thomson Fontaine and a team of people who love Dominica so much that they're willing to put so much on the line to save our beautiful land. So please feel free to ask him the questions when the time comes. I am sure Dr. Fontaine is not no stranger to solve questions. He'll be more than happy to answer your questions and share the plans that he has for our beautiful, lovely land. Thank you for those laborites who are here. It's You know what? We have lived for too long in division. We have lived for too long in a divisive politics. And in Dominica right now, it's all heads on board. Everybody working together to build our beautiful land. So I give it over to Zed Lloyd, who's going to introduce Dr. Thomson Fontaine. Thank you everyone again for coming.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Short notice, the to try and maximize them. By the time Friday evening, club, logistics, small finance, you can't be begging, you have to beg so much, So it is. So thanks for coming. I think it was important for us to get a moment with Dr. Thomson Fontaine, and a moment with, where him and his party, see us in a certain extent. And I thought it was important, no matter what the time limitations, that we know we can at least get a chance to talk tonight. So the different platforms, so indirectly, there's a conversation with domination, there's a conversation with diaspora, and I think the diaspora is important to Dr. Thompson's plan for the future. If you look at Dominica without the CBI, the diaspora has to play a very critical role in Dominica's development. And so a lot of people say, what are you doing out here? What are you doing? You have to understand the solution is multi-pronged, It's multi-pronged. You need that international pressure, you need that economic pressure, then you need that galvanizing pressure nationally. So it's not just what you're doing in foreign, it's like your foreign is part of the solution. Part of the solution, because you didn't know that if a juggernaut, infinite capital, no kind of conscience, win by any means necessary. We cannot deal with that issue without trying to get a broader measure of support internationally or otherwise. And so that is why the diaspora is very critical in that process of moving forward and justice without it. I want to introduce Dr. Thomson Fontaine with you. We're here until 9 o'clock. It is what it is. Spend some time with him and talk. But thank you. Yeah, but I think it's important, sometimes you need a Solomon, sometimes you need a Samson. Different times in the struggle. Sometimes you have a mix of Samson and Solomon. And sometimes somebody's a Samson and we need a little Solomon. What we have to start doing, I think, is owning our critique when we talk to leadership. When you find the faults, the holes, let's try and own those holes. Let's see where if we are qualified, we can come in there and we can help and we can, because none is perfect. And so moving forward, I want us to own our critique. Own our critique, own it. See if you can, solve it, and you can add and you can amplify leadership in areas that you think it needs to be amplified. I think it's important moving forward that we start doing that. So I just want to welcome you to this brother right here, brother, a friend, former schoolmate, teacher, from ancient. My big brother Patty Ron told me to say tonight, for him, personally, the way he feels of Brother Thomson Fontaine, for him, he's been one of the most hardworking Dominicans that he knows, period. And I think that needs to be amplified. I think you may not be getting what you're looking for as yet, but I think better is to come as things get organized. And like I say, as we gather around, people talk about the division, but right now I say we have to own our critique. If you got a critique, try and own it, try and own it. See if you can do something about it. See if you can do something about it. My brother, God bless.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. And gosh, good night to all of you. Me and Zed go way, way, way back. Zed was the head boy of Academy when I was there. And we came up with the idea of bringing together all the student councils of all the secondary schools. And Zed headed that, and I was the treasurer. And Gabriel Christian was our teacher counselor. That was over 40 years ago. But even then, I think what was common with us was that love of country. And all those years later, that love for Dominica has not been diminished. That desire to see our country move beyond the place that it is has not been diminished. And so I am truly delighted to be here tonight with all of you. Thank you so much for coming. Mr. Mutu, it's good to see you. And to all of you who are here, it's really good, you know, that you were able to come out. And I'm glad to see not only persons who support our party, but others of you who are here to listen to us. And that's very important. Very often in Dominica, we talk over each other's heads. You know, we need to listen more. We need to pay more attention to what people are saying. And that's how we're going to move forward. So I want to share a few things with you tonight, out of my heart, and just really, you know, really been thankful for that opportunity tonight to spend some time with you in the Bronx. And driving up from DC this morning, it reminded me a little bit of why I prefer Dominica. That traffic is something else, boy. Jesus. It just reminded me, and I'm like, thank God, Dominica all the time, you know? Yeah, so, but anyway, we're here, and I know that tonight, although I'm here as the only representative of the United Workers' Party, Team Dominica, I'm not here alone. I stand on the shoulders of the founders of the United Workers' Party, former Prime Minister Edison James, Ron Green, Norris Prevost, and Julius Timothy, and all the others who labored from 1986 to build a party. I stand on the shoulders of those stalwarts who have maintained their support for the party over all those years, in spite of the blows that we've received on election day, because you can imagine how it is when you work so hard to win an election, and on the day of the election, you can only watch as plane load after plane load comes in, as ferry after ferry unloads, and you know that you're going to lose the election. And yet our people continue. They have not given up. I stand tonight on the shoulder of this 92-year-old lady I met a few weeks ago. And she told me that she was praying for two things before she died. Two things. One, that she would get a chance to meet me, which she was doing. And secondly, that she would see a win for the United Workers' Party. And I told her to have no fear, that that will in fact happen. We have every confidence that we will win the next general election, and I will explain to you how we're going to do that. I have every confidence that we can do this. And tonight as well, I stand on the shoulders of the patriots, the 24 other individuals who were arrested and thrown in jail for simply standing up for electoral reform. March 19th, we saw the police actions against innocent protesters, jailing of innocent people. I can recall the fear talking to individuals that they had, expecting that knock on their door. Some were shackled like common criminals, all because they stood up. And that's what we are fighting for. So I stand tonight on their shoulders because they give me the strength to go on. I've been arrested now 3 times. 3 times. Never stole a quarter in my life. I'm treated sometimes like a common criminal. And I remember the time that I was arrested and I spent 3 days in jail. And I was telling somebody that, you know, during that time, it was kind of interesting because I never expected that. I never expected to move from the corridors of power in South Sudan, you know, sitting next to President Museveni of Uganda and the presidents in the region, and moving from that to a cell in Dominica, where my company that night was a few rats that are the size of chihuahuas, you know, and it was quite a waking up and a awakening experience for me, because here it was, I was trying to process in my mind what this is all about. I have not killed anybody, I have not stolen anything from anybody. I was working for my country, I was devoting my time, sacrificing my time for my country, and here it was, I was in a common cell. But you know, something good came from that, you know, because I met a Venezuelan, and I'll just share that as we move on tonight. But that's important for context, because sometimes things happen to you in life and you wonder why. And I'm convinced I was in there that day for one reason. Because I met this gentleman who had been in that prison for over 6 months. He had come to Dominica. I was not going to ask him what he was jailed for, but anyway, he had spent this time. He was sent to jail. He had made his time, but he did not have the money to go back to Venezuela. Our government refused to pay his ticket. So this individual was sitting in jail for close to 7 months, not being able to live. I gave him my solemn promise that I will get him out because he belongs to his family. And he referred to me as God. He called me God. A few days later, he sent me a text referring to me as God. I said, no, I was just helping. I was able to get him a ticket and to fly him out probably 2 or 3 days later. I say that to say that, yeah, it was something that they thought would break me and somehow, but here it was, I was able to contribute to someone's life, return him to his family in Venezuela. And so, you know, the struggle for Dominica continues. And that's why I'm very happy tonight on a Friday night, after a long, hard week, that you've taken the time to come. I truly appreciate this, and I'm not taking this for granted. I appreciate your presence. What this tells me is that you, like me, and like those in Dominica, have a desire to see change in Dominica. What this tells me is that you are Dominicans and you're looking most likely for the day to go back to Dominica. And I will tell you this, the United Workers' Party Team Dominica believes that the future for Dominica is one in which we are able to embrace our diaspora. It is one in which we're able to count upon every single one of you. And already I know you're playing your part. Dominicans are sending constant support to Dominica. Constantly, you're sending the barrels. Last year alone, over $50 million in remittances sent back to Dominica from the diaspora. And that is what is keeping our country afloat. Because in that same time, we had about $5 million worth of exports. So your contribution is keeping the Dominica economy afloat. It is keeping your family, your friends in Dominica, allowing them to be able to send the children to school, to pay the school fees, to pay the bus fares, to pay their mapping bill and their bills at the end of the month. And I want to thank you for that. And yes, you can put your hands together for yourselves. Because without that support, it would have been a very different situation in Dominica. Without that support, and I know because this is a topic I've studied very, very closely, understanding the critical role the diaspora plays in the development of the country. And I'm here to tell you tonight that we have a plan for the diaspora that will include not only your participation in voting, which we welcome, and I want to, from the outset, dismiss this fact that we do not want a diaspora to vote. We've never said we do not want a diaspora to vote. What we've always said that it must be a level playing field. In other words, every single Dominican in the diaspora must have the equal chance to vote as everybody else. And that's what you need, a level playing field. So we have to find a way to make that happen. But it cannot be that a government that is drunk on power, a government that is not working in the best interest of the people of Dominica, when the people who are living in Dominica want to make a change in this government, it is not fair that they can use the resources of the state to import voters in selected constituencies. And let me explain to you how terrible that is. In 2009, for example, in 2009, we lost 5 constituency seats by a combined total of 220 votes. That's 5 seats we could have won, but we lost. Why did we lose? Because the government of Dominica had gone through the list and had brought people in selective constituencies. In 2014, we won 6 seats. So they say. It was 7 on the night of the election because I was supposed to have won my seat in Bradford. The following day in a recount, I found out that 21 ballots, perfectly good ballots, were thrown out as rejected ballots. In a constituency where since 1970, they've had an average of 2 spoiled ballots. So we moved from 2 spoiled ballots in 1970, all the elections over 50 years, and suddenly we have 21 spoiled ballots. But guess what? Every single one of those ballots were against me. So we went to sleep thinking we won the election. The following day, we had lost by 3 votes. That is what Dominicans we've had to contend with. And that is the reason why I find it very interesting that people say we should not speak, we should not protest. But that is what we're up against. You can imagine the kind of sacrifice that you have to put in. Because in 2014, I sacrificed my work at the IMF. An IMF economist in the prime of my career, I said, I'm going to give everything to Dominica. I resigned, went back to Dominica to contest an election. And that is what happened to us. And we are being told you should not protest, you should not complain, you should simply take your losses. But that cannot be. That should not be. So what we have been calling for in Dominica is a level playing field, is a situation where we can have it such that every single Dominican has a chance to participate. But at the end of the day, we have a process that is free, that is credible, and that is fair. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what we're asking for. And that is what we deserve. So we have a government that has survived or thrives on the stealing of elections. And that's the reason why we've not seen any progress necessarily. Look at where Dominica is today. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we were exporting close to $200 million of our produce. Now we can barely hit $5 million. A government that has neglected the people of Dominica, a government that believes, by the way, that the way you treat your Dominican people is by throwing handouts at them. So here, the Prime Minister is in a certain village, and he's giving $300, he's giving $500. And I want to say that in 2013, the government of Dominica introduced the National Employment Program. And the reason why that was introduced is because in the build-up to the elections, the United Workers' Party Team Dominica said clearly that we are going to ensure that as we participate in this election, that we actually win. All right. So our focus was on winning in 2014. But everything was done to ensure that we lost that election. And so that is what we have been fighting against. We have the NEP program that was started in 2014. And because of that, because it was started because we were offering the people of Dominica that we would be able to create 5,000 jobs within 3 years. And we had it laid out because we understand that the way you move the Dominica economy is that you ensure that the pillars of the economy are energized, so to speak. So you work on agriculture, you work on the agriculture sector in all its various forms. The raw products, you work on the agro-processing, essential oils, livestock, poultry, all of that. You work on the tourism sector, on the manufacturing sector. We understood that and we detailed how we're going to provide jobs for the people of Dominica. So the Prime Minister quickly went ahead and started an employment program. But let me be very clear, and you may have heard on the radio that somehow we don't believe in the NEP program, that we're going to stop it. We have been very clear. We believe that we can do this better. In other words, when I'm in my community, when I'm in the village of Grandford where I was born, and I look out my window at about 9:30 in the morning, I see all of these young people walking down the road, spade in hand, probably a weed whacker on the shoulder. And I'm thinking, we can do better than this. These are young people who went to high school, and now they are condemned to cutting grass at the road. Not that there's anything wrong with cutting grass at the road, but couldn't we have used those resources instead to ensure that these young people gain a skill? Wouldn't it have been better to have these young people in training to be accountants, to be plumbers, to be able to fix small appliances, to be electricians? A skill that they can learn something for life, so if they migrate out of Dominica, they have something to offer whichever country that they go to. So it's not that we're against the NAB program, we're against the way it is done. So a United Workers' Party Team Dominica government will change the program to ensure that it becomes a skills training program. And that is very important, because many years ago, and I'm saying some of you in there would have been in Dominica at this time, when we had the JSP program, where those who were not so much into academics could have a skill. All right, and they were able to get that, but they've destroyed the JSP program. The JSP program is no more. So we have a number of young people who lack those various skills. So even in opposition right now, we have started a process where we are now reintroducing skills training to our young people. So we are not waiting to get into government. Even as I speak to you tonight, we have a program that is ongoing in the southeast part of Dominica, where we are training some 15 young people in plumbing, in small appliance repair, and in electrical work. We are doing that, we are offering it to them completely free of charge. And you know what my motivation was for doing this and for introducing that, and why we thought it was good to do? One day, as I was making the rounds in my village, I came upon a group of about 15 young men. 15 young men. And I could see in them me, because I was there. I walked those streets, that's my village. And they say, we want to talk to you. We want to tell you something. And they pointed, the person who was doing the talking says, there are 15 of us, all between the ages of 18 and 23. We move around we move together, we look out for each other. Not a single one of us have worked in this country. These are 15 young people in my constituency without a day of work to call their own. And they say, sir, can you help us at least? We don't think that that program of cutting the grass we are not into it, but can you help us to do some poultry? We'll come together, we'll take care of the pen and so on. We want to go into poultry production. Can you help us? But that is where we are in Dominica. So we have a government in Dominica that has amassed an incredible amount of wealth, an incredible amount of resources. And we see it. We see it in the mansions that are going up all over Dominica, where people have not only one, but two, but three mansions. We see it in the taxpayer paying $64,000 for the Prime Minister to live in a building. We have made tens of millions of dollars in the CBI sale of our Dominican passports. Yet, our young people today continue to walk up and down in the villages without opportunity, without work, without a future. And that is why we are in this. I am in this personally because I believe that we can make a difference in the lives of the people of Dominica, and in particular, the lives of the young people. But we have to move past a government that does not care about the young people. Because if you cared about the young people of Dominica, you'd be looking for things like that to employ them, give them meaningful employment. You'd be looking for ways not to build 2, 3, 4 mansions. You can only live in one at a time in anyways. But this abuse of the Dominican resource, this abuse of accumulating wealth at the expense of the Dominican public cannot and should not continue. And that is why we are in this fight. And that is why I am here tonight in the Bronx, New York, with that message that we need your help, we need your support. I'm sure as we talk tonight that at some point you may want to go back to Dominica. But I'll tell you what, I have friends of mine who are not retiring in Dominica. They're asking about opportunities in St. Lucia. They want to be as close to Dominica as possible. They just cannot commit to Dominica. We have tens of thousands of our Dominicans who are in St. Martin, in Seba. There is somebody tell me we have Dominicans in Seba. I'm like, Seba? What's that? Seba is a little rock. A little rock in the Caribbean Sea. I don't think that if they have 2 trees, they probably have a lot. You know, but we have Dominicans there making a living because they cannot find those opportunities in Dominica. Even when we have so much resource in Dominica. We are blessed with a natural resource, our water. Nothing has been done with water, absolutely nothing. Our water resource, our agriculture, our essential oils. You know, I tell somebody we have the best of everything in Dominica. We have the best water, we have the best food, you name it, the best music. But nobody seems to know that because it's all just in Dominica. Yes, absolutely. But we need to get that out. And so that is what this is all about. This is more than just a political party versus the other. This is about the future of our country. This is about the future, in particular, of our young people. And I'm making this plea tonight, especially for the young people, because it pains me to no end that the same country that offered me so much opportunity, that so many hundreds and even thousands of our young people are condemned to a life of nothingness by this government. And if nothing else, we should do it for these young people. Some of us, we've worked our lives, we're about to retire, but do it for the young people whose whole lives are ahead of them. But I can tell you they will not get those opportunities with this current government. And so we have to work hard to make those changes. We've tried very hard to get the reforms, and see, we have partial reform. After the protests, after years of asking and reports from the OAS, from CARICOM, from the Commonwealth, even the Caribbean Court of Justice, our highest court, warned the government of Dominica after the 2019 general elections. They looked at the elections. They looked at the petitions that were presented. They saw the bloated voters list, and they told the government that no future election should be held unless and until there is change, there is reform. How did our government respond? 3 years later to call an election without nothing being changed. And today, we're hearing about the possibility of a snap election. And we have to ask ourselves a question. Who exactly is the Prime Minister doing this for? Is it for the young people of Dominica? Is it for the public servants who have not received the raise in over 15 years? Can you imagine? I taught, said to myself, we both taught at the academy. Zed, do you know that when we thought the amount of money we were making is about the same amount people are making today? A month? That is what we have in Dominica. So you have a government who has not been able to pay its public workers. We have a system that's completely messed up. The private sector is shrinking every single day. They cannot absorb any workers. They are shrinking. Our minimum wage is at the bare minimum. People have to survive on about $1,000, $1,200, $1,300 EC dollars a month. I think in US that is probably 300, no, probably 400 US dollars a month. That is where we are in Dominica. And so the fight that we're in, the struggle that we're in, when we go and we talk about electoral reform, when we talk about the cleansing of the voters list, when we talk about fighting corruption in Dominica, when we do those things, it's because we firmly believe that this current government has failed the people of Dominica. It has failed the country to the extent where you in the diaspora may not even want to come back to Dominica to retire. And it's your home country. You would love to go back to Dominica. We need your help. And over time, we'll be able to tell you more about our vision for Dominica. I could talk to you endlessly about that because we believe that we can offer opportunities to our diasporans. We, in particular, very quickly, we would like our diasporans to move beyond just the barrel economy. This is great. As I said, I told you from the beginning, as a diaspora, we want to thank you very much for that support, that $50 million support that they give every year to Dominica. That keeps us afloat. But we need to move beyond that. We need to begin to talk about investments in our country. Can we invest, for example, can a group of Dominicans come together and put some seed funding to do something in the water industry or to do something in essential oil, start doing a little perfume business and so on. There are lots and lots of opportunities that are there, that are available, and that's one of the things that we will continue to talk to you about. I know I've spoken a lot already, so I'm going to just pause there and open it up to any questions and some interaction from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Stand. Thanks for your presentation, brother. Much appreciated, you know. Yeah. We're going to spend a little time, you know. We're here till 9 o'clock. We're going to have some conversations with Brother Thompson, some quick interactions of things that may be important to you. And so, you know, like I said, I wish we could have gotten the place for much later. We could have found a bigger place, but it's a hustle, you know. It's a hustle. It's hard. It's hard. Oh, let me answer the question.
Yeah, you want to bring?
Yeah.
Give it to him.
Give another mic. Hello.
Oh yeah, you can give it to him. I'll speak.
Which one do you want to speak to?
I can speak through this, but I can speak through this and this.
Dr. Fontaine, I became an electrician when I was in Dominica. That's because I was going to the Rosa Boys School, and they had that program in the school. So that's how I became an electrician. It's because of the Rosa Boys School. Understand me? I don't see that program anymore, but that's where I learned to become an electrician from the Rosa Boys School. All right, and that's what I do here. All right. So thank God for the Rosa Boys School and you guys. Thank you.
Yes, and we plan, and we're definitely going to bring this back. All right, we are going to bring back that training for the young people of the country. Yes, we will. We will. Thank you. Thanks for that testimonial.
Dr. Fontaine, I'm also one of the old boys from St. Mary's Academy, and we were always taught that the future is in our hands. that SMA always teaches that we're going to be the men of tomorrow. It never said men and women because there were no ladies there. But, you know, we're proud to be of that alma mater. There is one thing I think while I was in Dominica recently, there are those who thought that rather than there be a UWP party, shouldn't there be a united opposition party rather than there be single opposition parties fighting for the same cause against a giant? It's okay. We can disagree. But sorry, let's listen to this statement. Because there is a disintegrated opposition, correct, at this point in time, who seem to have been fighting against each other. In your opinion, is there sufficient unity among the opposition members or parties, sufficient that going into this future election, that the results could be positive enough to create an overturn of the current administration that we are now fighting against? How far are you, or the United Labour Party, the UWP party, how far is the UWP party into that direction, if at all? Or if you're not into that direction, why not into that direction? Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much for this question. And like you, I believe firmly that we need a united front. Okay, so let me start with that. Very clearly, we need the opposition forces to be completely and totally united. And that is what we're engaged in. We have been engaged in talking to the different parties, the Freedom Party, the UPP, individuals, because we believe that it's only through that collective effort we can have the best success. And we should leave nothing to chance. And so let me just set you at ease to let you know that we share that view. Our party shares that same view, that we will look. I mean, I can't go into detail in terms of strategy and the constituencies and so on, but just rest assured that we understand that has to happen. And I must say that so far, the response has been positive. I believe that everybody's of that mindset, because we need to get rid of this administration. There's no question about it. The future of Dominica is at stake. Our future hangs in the balance, and people understand that. And I think it's good that people are prepared to set aside their egos, set aside whatever hindrance that they have, and focus on this one goal of removing this Dominica Labour Party. So that is happening. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Fontaine. I have a question. I have a small mouth. Yeah. 2019, when Roosevelt Skerritt called his election, I know that the Workers' Party did not participate in it. And if right now, if he would call another snap election, would we do the same thing, or would we participate in this election? I know Salisbury is definitely our own and Marigot, but would we step in the election just to gain these 2 seats? You know, I just want to know.
All right. I pause just a little because there is 2 things there. A snap election would mean that we have not received the reforms, as incomplete as it is. We have not received that. So that's what the snap election would dictate. So the question is, do you do as you did in 2022? Now, we've said, we made the point. We stayed away from the polls, And we have to work with whatever hand we're dealt with. We are sufficiently confident that especially the people on the ground right now, we are sufficiently confident that they're ready for that change. The Dominican people are tired. As they tell us constantly with this government, rien par là. Okay, rien par là. And for those of you who don't speak Patois, nothing is there. All right, people are fed up. So we believe that there is enough of a groundswell that would vote against this government, including our very good labor right friends who tell us we may not be able to speak publicly, we may not be able to talk, because if we do talk, the little $200, the little $500 will not come our way, and we need it, so we can't blame them. But who are giving us the assurance that they will vote for us? And I'll give you another example. A few weeks ago, I was in the village of Paybush, and this young lady came up to me. We started a conversation. She must have been about in her mid-20s, early 20s. And she says, you know, I have voted Labour. I voted Labour the last time. I voted twice. I voted the Labour Party. But I think now we need a change because it's not working for me. But I will tell you, I'm afraid. Why she said she was afraid? She said, I work with the NEP program. And they're telling me that if I vote, they will know that I vote against them. And they will take away the job from me. And she said, I can't lose my NEP job. That's all I have. But that is what people have been primed with. But we know, so it's up to us now to explain to them, how to explain to her, they cannot know who you vote for. But that's the kind of education that we have to put, because they're spreading the false information, the false narratives, putting people in fear that they will know who they vote for when they vote. Okay, but that is not the case. All right, and so we have to keep working on that. So a very short answer to your question is yes, we intend to participate in the next election.
Yeah, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, and from the audience, you know, one of the things that has been a challenge for the struggle and the movement and this whole oppositional thing is funding at home. It is critical, and it is critical because usually the funding structures you would have in Dominica, they're non-existent because these companies aren't making enough money to fund civic and political issues. Those things used to happen before. The Nasifs, the Estefans used to be sitting real tight. Everybody used to contribute. That's how it used to run. Don't let nobody fool you. You understand? But a lot of these economic structures, they are non-existent. So there is an inherent disadvantage in standing up against this government. There is an inherent economic disadvantage. And one of the things, when you look at financing things, we look at them from expensive angles. And one of the things Dr. Thomson was, been looking at is the idea of investing in small angles. So let's say you have 1,000 committed diasporans. Maybe you can take it better, but I wanted to that you catch it. While you're thinking of, well, I have to do hundreds and 200s and 300s, really, if you think about it, 1,000 committed people at $10 a month is $10,000. And none of these 1,000 people are feeling anything in their pocket because all they're giving is $10 a month. But that's $2,500. That's $25,000 at home. That's movement. That's lawyers at $10 a month. And so we want to inculcate you into that kind of understanding of how, because it is hard to want to go to courts. It's hard to go and challenge, and every time you have to go to the same people you know they don't have, and you have to beg them. So we as a diaspora, we can link into the thing, make that small contribution. If you're consistent, you just do it small. It's not stressing you. It's a coffee for you. But when you multiply it by 2,000, it's plenty money. You get me?
Yes, thank you. And Zed said it well. And that is what we are looking to do. We don't have the deep pockets, but we have to do the work on the ground. Okay? We have to go to the constituencies. We are engaging different projects. I talked about the project that we're doing. We cannot afford to charge the young people for the classes. In fact, somebody tell me we must charge something. I say, okay, $5. One person brought me $5 because they don't have it. One person, they don't have it. So we have to pay the lecturers. We have to contribute something to them. They have been good to us. They said, okay, just pay our gas and so on from Roseau to come. But there is a cost attached to it. So anything we do has a cost attached to it. So we'll be called, and that's why I mentioned the 50 million, to make sure that you have a lot of money when you combine together. And so we'll be looking to get some support, and as you said, small amounts, we can commit to a $10, a Starbucks coffee, for example, $10, a ride on the New Jersey Transit, we can do that. Just a sacrifice. Thank you.
Good evening.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation and all the information that's going on in the island of Dominica. And it's sad, the reality of us, the hurt that we do to us as opposed to uplifting and talking about the history of the island, how you flourished and been a part of the global economy, and now being held hostage by a few who are sitting up in an ivory tower somewhere. So my question to you is that we're talking about the elections, and we know all across the globe there are challenges when it comes to elections and people stealing power and trying to hold on to power. Is there any way that the UN can assist in sending in, say, monitors to oversee elections? Can the island of Dominica bring enough noise to the economic conditions? Because you see it all over the globe. Different countries make enough noise. Then, they like the squeaky wheel that makes the noise, they get all the oil. So how does the island of Dominica start making that kind of noise so people can respect the gold mine that is Dominica and the beauty that lives in that country?
All right, thank you. So, in fact, we've adopted that approach. Every election, going back to probably 2000, we've had election observers. So they've come from the OAS, they've come from the Commonwealth, they've come from CARICOM. They have been present to observe the election. Every single observer mission has said that our elections are neither free nor fair. They've outlined it. A lot of the recommendations for the reform came from those observer missions. The difficulty is when they come in, they only come for the election itself. So they see the lines, they look at the polling station, everybody's lined up. It appears to be going as normal. But underneath it, they've reported, for example, the bribery that takes place. The individuals, while they're on the line, they promise that if they take a photo of the ballot, they can come back. And you had in the last election, persons would leave the voting booth and go across to the Labour Party office to collect the money because they have to show the proof of their X. Okay, so that happens outside of the view of the observers at times. So we've tried really hard with the observers. The government of Dominica continues to do what it has done. But we are up in the game, and that's part of the reasons why we spend some time in Washington. I can't go into the details of that, but we are looking to see how we can make more noise, make it very uncomfortable for the government of Dominica to keep behaving that way. And there are ways of doing it, and we are thinking of ways outside of just the yes. Exactly. So we are looking at, yes. Thanks for that.
What about putting people in the election area that are going to make sure everything go right? Yeah, I said, what about putting people in the election area to make sure it's going right? Amen. Somebody you can trust.
Okay, so
because I used to do that before.
Yes, so every election you have the persons, right? We call them agents. So we have our agents at every polling station. But bear in mind, they are looking at persons who come in sometimes who are not qualified to vote. Now, the way it happens is when you come in to vote, you raise a challenge, okay? So we raise a challenge and say, well, this individual is not James Brown. He says he's James Brown. We know this is not James Brown. This is somebody posing as James Brown. The individual takes an oath and says, yes, I'm James Brown. He's allowed to vote. His vote goes into the big pool of votes. Our option now is to take it to an election petition. We take it to the election petition. We've done that religiously every election. Persons who've come overseas who will not qualify because they were outside the 5-year period. What has happened in the courts? the courts have either not listened to it or they've set it aside. Time and time again. We were very lucky, and I say lucky, in 2019, that it went all the way to the Supreme Court. But it was 3 years later. It was 3 years later. So the Supreme Court could not even take a decision on the government. But they were able, when they got a chance for the first time to look at the evidence, individuals who came in who were not supposed to vote, individuals who were challenged by our agents, they said, no, you cannot have an election, because at the very core of this, if you don't fix it, it will lead to social unrest, it will lead to problems. You need to fix it. So that is what I have been faced with.
But the point I'm trying to make, you need an agent that will stop it right there.
Oh no, they cannot. They
I
cannot.
used to do that, because when you're coming into that hole, you make things that leading or misleading person who coming to vote.
Yes, but
So I will tell them to take it off. You need somebody for you there, somebody you can trust.
Yes, but yes.
I used to
No,
do that.
but the way it is in practice, you cannot prevent the person from voting. There is a penalty if they vote and they're not the person, for example. But they take the oath and they're allowed to vote, and then we challenge it. That's how it's done. You cannot tell the person go out. You cannot. It's not. No.
You need somebody aggressive you can trust. You can trust.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, yeah, Brother Thompson. Yeah, 1, 2, Mike. Yeah, Brother Thompson, I rise here to give you a little bit of solidarity. First, I want to congratulate you for the kind of work you've been doing on your Sunday program. That's a very interesting program that have given me like a cup of coffee on a Sunday morning listening to that program. I learned a lot, and you did a lot of research. Thank you very much for that. Now, the political scene in Dominica calls for a Hercules strength. That means there's a lot of work to be done. Are you guys prepared to do the groundwork to bring about that victory? Because it is a mounting task. Can you just give us a little layout whether you guys have the stamina and the organization to go up against Skerritt and his government?
All right. The answer is yes. We understand that the way you succeed politically is that you must be on the ground. Okay, we're very clear about that. You must spend the time and the effort to talk to the people at their homes, in the shops, wherever they are. That's a key part of our campaign strategy, and it's no secret. We have been organized where we have the candidates already in place. We have been going out with them. Where we don't have the candidates, we are just as a group going, and we are going to be improving on that. We're going to be making that in a more frequent way. But again, resources, right? We need to pay transportation across the island. You know, a gallon of gas in Dominica is 14 EC dollars. So if you're going from say Grand Fork or from Roseau to Pay Bush, you're talking about individuals spending at least, I don't know, $100 just for gas, right? So there is a cost to it. We understand that what we have been trying to do is to have the candidates in their own time within the constituencies be a part and to do that. But the groundwork, as you said, is critical for us. Under my leadership, I've been stressing that. We have talked about doing what we call a pull-up Saturday, where we'll go to those constituencies on a Saturday with a group of people, and we'll just spend the time in the constituencies. We'll play the dominoes, we'll play the games, whatever it is that we can do with the community. So we are working on that. That will be started very, very soon, where we have those pull-up Saturdays. We'll do it every week, not only just on Saturday, but at least 2 or 3 times a week, where we go to those constituencies, we sit with the people, we talk to them, and we show them what our view is for the future of Dominica. So that's very much in the works.
Dr. T, I have 2 questions. Number one, the last election, many of the UWP supporters, their names were removed as far as I understood, that some of them, when they went to vote, that they were told that their names were not on the voting list. So some of them were unable to vote, although they lived in certain areas. Number two, I understood that the Labour Party giving their supporters voters ID and telling them make sure that they have their voters ID, so when they come to vote, that they will know that is the person. What is the UWP doing about that? Because you don't want, when your members go, your supporters go there, they don't have any ID, they might want to turn them off. So just a quick question for you.
All right, let me start with the second question, right? The process under this current legislation is called a confirmation process. So in other words, you're supposed to confirm your name on the list. All right, so I am Thomson Fontaine. I confirm that. That has to be done according to the legislation through the use of agents. The electoral office is the one that is responsible for setting up the agents in the different constituencies. That has not yet started. The government of Dominica has just gone to Parliament to request the money to be able to pay those workers and to do what they have to do to get the ID card. So the voter ID card is going to come out of that process. We have been hearing about this in terms of the Labour Party, but what it is just to prepare their members, but they cannot register them. They cannot confirm them. It has to be those enrollment officers in the various constituencies who can certify that this is the person, and then they issue them with the voter ID card. So we are working on that. With respect to the names on the list, I'm not sure about that, because typically what we do, we always compare the voters list that was published before the final voters list. So in every constituency, our agents go through very carefully to ensure that the names that were already on the list are still there of our voters. So that is done. So I'm not sure about that part of it, of the names missing. Yeah.
I heard on
some of people were complaining. Okay. Okay, it could be that they were not aware of their voting, of what polling area they had to go to. Because, for example, like in some villages, you have somebody's house, the school, or the church, so you have different places. So if your name is in the church and you go to the school, they will say, well, your name is not there. It does not mean it is not in the school. I think it's possible that is what happened. There was some confusion as to where exactly they have to vote. But for the most part, that process is okay, because the list has hardly changed over the years. It has hardly changed, and it gets bigger and more bloated every time.
Yeah, because I'm a poll worker, so I know about the voting system. So I know, like, we have to vote this or that. But what they should go, okay, that person is not supposed to go that list. They should have somebody to guide them, saying, everyone in the wrong area. This is where you are voting like Massacre Church. Massacre Church is no longer, you're going to go to the center, or you're going to go to sleep. So let them be specific. So in that case, you have less confusion. So people are not going crazy. And as a result, you know what? They lost their vote. And then that's what's that prevent cluster. So they have to, like, education.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, Thompson. I know politics is a game of numbers. Most people believe that. I believe politics is a game of position. Now, if I'm walking down the street, I'm a Catholic, and there's a Catholic church. Juxtaposed next is a gentleman's club. Now, I have to make a choice. Do I go to church, or do I go to the gentleman's club? I have to think morally and say, well, let me go to church. On the other hand, I may say, I like the entertainment, let me go there. Where I'm getting at is to tell you or to ask you, how would you lead me into choosing such a position? Should I go morally, or should I go towards entertainment? In that case, I would like you to give me 5 positions that you have that is different than scary, that I should come along with you and reject scary. Because I think most people, that's what they're looking for. They want a leader that can articulate position. Let us know what you believe in, what you think is best for the country, and juxtapose that to Skerritt's position that is detrimental to the country.
All right, great. Excellent question. Number one, a focus on agriculture. The government has neglected agriculture. They refer to it as a has-been industry. So a United Workers' Party government under my leadership will invest in agriculture. Not only agriculture, but in agro-processing. We'll be adding a value to our produce. You know, I was a huckster briefly for about, 6 months in 2017. And I was basically buying food from our farmers and taking it to Martinique. And I saw the desire on the part of the Martinicans for the Dominican produce. The first order that we received was for 70 tons of produce, 70 tons. That's about 140,000, 14, whatever it is, 2,000 by 70. We were only able to get 11 tons to satisfy that demand of 70 tons of food. And that was consistent. We were never able to meet the demand. At the end, we had to give it up because the boat that we were using was out of service. The government we were never able to get another boat going to Martinique. But that allowed us to bring over $600,000 into the island in just a couple of months. Over $600,000 directly into the hands of the farmers. Desire for spice, just name it, about 20 different products they were asking for. So we know that market is still there because in Martinique and Guadeloupe, they've had issues with the soil being contaminated and they look forward to our produce. So you can revamp the industry, not necessarily banana, revamp the agriculture sector. So that is number one. That's very different. Second is a focus on youth development. In other words, understanding that the youth have to be given good paying jobs. We have to build a culture of wealth creation. That is something that we've lost in Dominica. You want your young people to be able to work so that they have something to pass on to their children. Okay, so we believe in wealth creation. We've not seen that on the part of the government. You cannot create wealth with 1,000 EC dollars. That's a bagay, hand to mouth. Lamea bush, lamea bush, lamea bush. Okay, you cannot. So that's number two. The third thing that we are going to be focused on is you here, the diaspora. That's another area the government have neglected. They focus on the diaspora simply for voting purposes. So they say, come in, vote, put us in, but then forget, don't bother us again. We are saying, no, we believe that there is a role for the Dominican diaspora, for investment vehicles, for the setting up of banking arrangements. There are lots of different ways the diaspora can be a part of that. So that is number three. Number four, our foreign relations. We will be very different from the government. And that has to do with the way we apportion jobs on the island, or where we give jobs to. Currently, we have a government that has signed contracts with the Chinese, where Chinese workers, St. Lucian workers, Jamaican workers are given precedent over Dominicans. Every single project that we sign as a government must ensure that at least 60 to 70% of those employed on those projects must be Dominicans. It is abominable that we have a government that is importing drivers. You have men who have invested in trucks and they cannot use their trucks because not only are they importing the drivers, they are allowed to import the trucks. Absolutely nothing is done. There is a project, a multi-billion-dollar project going on in the village of Wesley for the international airport. And I went there some time ago. I was walking through Wesley. I saw a group of about probably 15 or so people. I say, who are these individuals? They say, these are Thais that were brought in from Thailand into the project. Dominican men cannot find work. They cannot feed their families, and you have foreigners taking the jobs. And it was done before. You had other firms after Maria that were brought to clean up the island, and they were from St. Lucia. They were Jamaicans. The Prime Minister boasted that over $218 million was sent out of Dominica for workers who were working in Dominica. That cannot continue. So we are offering the Dominican public that the United Workers' Party team in Dominican government will ensure that whatever contracts, whatever projects that is funded by the government, the Dominican people will come first. We cannot be second-class citizens in our own country. Can you imagine how hurtful that must be for the villagers of Wesley to see that they're getting up every day, they have nothing to go to, and they're foreigners just down the road making money out of our own passport money? And finally, the way we deal with our relationships, our international diplomatic relationships. That is very important. No country should believe that because we are a small island, that they should dictate to us how we should run our foreign policy. And then also, every relationship that we embark upon has to be through mutual respect, but importantly, we must ensure the interests of Dominicans first. We have not seen that with the Dominican Labour Party. So these are just the 5 areas that I have shown you that is very different from this government. So we're talking about a vision that leads to job creation, a vision that looks to revitalize the economies, which, by the way, I know something about because I've been doing that for many, many years. Revitalize the economy, and more importantly, put our young people to work. That is the solemn promise that we make it to the Dominican public.
Good evening, everybody. Dr. Thomson, in the last 15 years, the Dominican government has depended on CBI as their main source of income. And we are hearing now that the CBI may be in trouble, and that the European Union might very well withdraw the visa-free access to Europe that the CBI passports are allowed to enter Europe. And we are hearing now with the Trump administration that they want that CBI closed. What will happen to Dominica if the CBI comes to an end? And last thing, will the UWP government continue the CBI as it is?
All right, 2 very good questions. Let me just explain to you the importance of the CBI program right now. 60% of government spending is because of the CBI. In other words, they depend on only 40% on taxes. 60%. So it means that if tomorrow the program is shut down, you have to find 60% where this money is going to come from. It's not going to come from taxes because the tax base is already stretched. You don't have a lot of businesses. People making $1,000 or $1,200, you cannot even tax them. The income tax threshold is about, I think, $1,800 or $2,000. So you can't even tax them. So to answer your question, if that happens, the country will be in serious problem. It will mean that the government is not able to pay its workers. For example, government has to find every year, they have to find at least every month, between $5 and $6 million to pay the NAP workers. That would most likely be the first one to go. Okay. Then you're talking about paying your government workers, talking about services, the health services. Already, even in that atmosphere of 60% of CBI, we still have shortages at the hospital. Basic medical supplies are not available. Your family falls sick in Dominica, make sure you walk with your paracetamol. You have to be prepared to get the money somewhere. Even today in Dominica, blood testing at a major hospital is normal, cannot be done. You cannot do blood testing. You are forced to go to a private clinic where your family has to pay. And you're being told, by the way, that you must pay before the tests are done. You must pay not only for the test, but before your family member is taken care of. So I'm saying this to paint a picture of, even with so much CBI, we have those major problems already. So imagine if all of that were to disappear tomorrow. Will we stop the CBI program? Because of that issue that I talked about, the 60%, we will not stop it abruptly, but we will phase it out. We will phase out the CBI program as quickly as possible. And we will move whatever resources we have in there, we will invest in our agriculture. Listen, we can create hundreds of jobs overnight in agriculture, you know. If you set up 2 or 3 manufacturing businesses that can process our water, can process our fruits that are wasted, you know, every day. You know, you come to Dominica, if you go to Dominica now, mangoes are just wasted, littering the floor. These can be dried. Pawpaw, you know, you name it. 60 different fruits and vegetables and crops in Dominica that can be bottled or packaged and sent out. So those monies would go into that. And I believe, and it has been done, by the way, that's not just a pie in the sky. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I want you to listen to this. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Ralph Gonzalez have never gone into the CBI, the sale of passports. Yet they are the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean. All right. So it means, that tells me it's not how much you have, it's how you spend it, right? That's very important. For the past several years, our government have been drunk on power, drunk on CBI. They have turned over the CBI to MMC. We have seen, and I'm not saying that's what happened, but we've seen since, over the past couple of years, the same MMC fella has built 4 skyscrapers in downtown Dubai. I'm not saying it's our money, I've never said that. Okay? But all I will say is that he did not build those before he got involved in the CBI. And all of those monies have been passed on to him. And that's the reason, by the way, why we took the government to court. We took the government to court not because we want to stop the program. We took the government to court because we want them to tell us what is in the contract with MMC. We want the court to compel our government to obey the Constitution, which clearly states that every cent earned by government must come through the consolidated fund. That is in our Constitution. It's in our laws, it's in our rules, financial rules in Dominica. So we are asking the court to compel the government of Dominica to simply follow the Constitution. That's the reason why this court case, and I'm glad to announce that we're back in court on the 20th of May, and we're very hopeful that the court will have the fortitude to rule in our favor and in favor of the people of Dominica.
We got one more quick. Sister Marceline has a thing happening, and you know, we just want a minute to just tell you about Diaspora Expo.
Hello, good evening, everybody. It's good to be here, and it's good to see so many Dominicans. We are not UWPites. We are not Laborites. We are not Freedomites, but we are Dominicans. Dominica first. We put our patriotism first. We put our love for country first. We are one people first. And in the spirit of our camaraderie, in the spirit of our Dominicanness, We are organizing a Dominica Diasporan Arts and Crafts Expo in New Jersey. This is the 4th annual expo. It is an expo of all our Dominican entrepreneurs, our small business enterprise. We are doing the branding on 767 Stuyvesant Avenue in Irvington, New Jersey. And this is going to be on Saturday, the 7th of June. I am inviting all the New Yorkers. I know you all don't like to cross the bridge. I know you all don't like to cross the bridge, but I am inviting every one of you. You all need to come out to support our Dominican local crafters. Come out in your numbers. And it's a lot of good things our Dominican producers are doing. We have authors, we have crafters. One of our crafters, she's here, Adelaide Paul. Adelaide, you need to bring the New Yorkers with you. So come out, it's at 10 o'clock. The official opening is at 10 o'clock. But of course, there is that real Dominican breakfast, and the breakfast is done early. So come out. Now we have our Dominican musicians. You know, music is part of our culture. So we have the Impulse Band from Florida. We have the various cultural groups. The Dominican Houston Association dancers are going to be with us as well. So come on out, everybody. Come on. It's one people, one love, and one nation. God bless all of us. Loads of love.
My people, like I told you, was hustling for time, you know, small space, you know, it was what it was. I just want to give Brother Thompson a little moment to give us a final thing, and I got to close down on this brother because he made the sacrifice for us on a Friday night. Next time we find somewhere bigger, someplace we can. All right, God bless.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's just to say thank you to all of you. I cannot tell you how appreciative I am that you came out on a Friday night to listen to this little boy from Grand Fork. All right. So it's good to be here, and it's been a pleasure. I hope you're able to share. As I say, we'll be looking to you for your support. That's very important. All right. We can do this together. We are going to be counting on you to help us. We believe we can win the next election, whatever it is, but we need your help. And we hope that you understand the vision that we have for Dominica, a country that you will be able to go back to and retire in peace when the time comes. So thank you very much. Get home safely, and God bless all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Much thanks, everyone.